Miss Connie, and today I would like to discuss with you Asperger syndrome and the effects it can have on the entire family. Asperger's is a form of autism that's very high on the spectrum, and individuals are usually very highly intelligent and very high functioning, although it also causes communication difficulties, sensory overloads, and delays in everyday life skills. Some other characteristics are developing and maintaining age appropriate relationships, maintaining eye contact, and they often repeat words and phrases. In the book Autism Spectrum Disorder, A Complete Guide to Understanding Autism, it tells us that autism affects more men than women. The first documented case was in 1796. An average of 12% of individuals work a full-time job and 80% live with family members independently throughout their life. 1 in 68 babies are born with autism but are not usually diagnosed until later in life. My son is 13 years old and was not diagnosed until he was 10. As the mother of someone with autism, I have spoke to several physicians who specialize in autism and done a significant amount of research. To begin, let's talk about how Asperger's can cause communication difficulties between family members. In the book Autism Spectrum Disorder, The Complete Guide to Understanding Autism, the author says the label autism and autistic come from the Greek word autos, meaning self. Individuals typically withdraw from the outside world and into themselves. Although it's unintentional, individuals with Asperger's cannot carry long conversations, pay attention to detail, or maintain eye contact. My son, when he meets someone new, he typically looks at the ground a lot or bats his eyes when he can look at you. He will often attempt to change the subject in mid-conversation. An example of this is when we're in the car with my friend and we're having a conversation. He will completely interrupt us and start talking about different types of clouds in the sky. Speech therapy and counseling are often used to correct these issues. Now we can discuss how Asperger syndrome causes sensory overload. The book It Happened to Me, Autism Spectrum Disorder, defines sensory integration as the neurological process that refers to the way the stimulation from the environment is interpreted by the brain. So sensory integration dysfunction is when sensory input is not correctly interpreted by the brain. It also tells us the studies of sensory processing in individuals find high rates of reported abnormalities, over 90% sometimes, including hypersensitivity, as well as sensory overload. The author even goes on to tell us that he dedicated an entire chapter to this issue because the understanding of the sensory system is the key to understanding autism. Individuals with Asperger syndrome must learn strategies to reduce sensory intake, such as wear headphones or take a break in a dark room. My son has an allotted amount of time when he gets home from school to decompress every day. When we go out as a family for family entertainment, the flashing lights, the crowds, and loud noises are often way too much for him, so we usually have to leave early or find something else to do. Another way that sensory integration dysfunction can have an impact is they often hear different than versus what they see. For example, my son had an IQ test done recently, and she told him 10 words and asked her to repeat them back. He could only tell her 2. She then showed him 15 words on the table. He read them. She took them away. He told her every one they were, told her to them backwards, and then put them in alphabetical order without her even asking. Let's move on to how Asperger syndrome causes delays in general life skills. In the book, The Autistic Brain, it tells us that data studies have suggested children and adolescents with Asperger syndrome have delays or disorders in overall motor development, including locomotor and object control. At 13, my son struggles with simple tasks such as buttoning his pants, tying his shoes, hanging clothes on a hanger. Another example is individuals with Asperger struggle academically. In the book Asperger Teen, it discusses how individuals with Asperger's often struggle with completing assignments. In early school years, there are often lists or schedules hanging on the wall. As a child progresses into middle school and high school, they expect them to be more independent. This is when they really begin to struggle. For an example, My son did wonderful until he was in 6th grade. I then began to get phone calls and notes saying Chris was having trouble completing assignments and turning his work in, and also remembering what to bring to class. So how we fixed this was we put a note in his locker for everything he needed for each class. And he's now also on a 504 plan where the teachers are instructed to give Chris specific instructions to him only so he can process what they're saying and get his work done. In conclusion, we can take a few things from this information. Asperger's has a significant amount of impact on family activities and everyday communications. Individuals with Asperger's, their family members, and educators must work together for these people to succeed. They also must adjust. As the saying goes, when you've met one person with autism, you've met one person with autism. Although these components are similar, everyone is different. Autism does not come with an instruction guide. It comes with a family who never gives up on each other. Thank you for your time and attention today.